Raw Unscripted. I'm here with Kelly Ann, and we are going to have another great conversation on this beautiful Tuesday because, and I'm going to apologize in advance because I can already feel the tickle. I got a bit of a throat thing going on. I got my water nearby, but it is beautiful outside. The sun is shining, the warmer weather's coming, and the birds are singing. So it's a good day here for us in this side of Ontario, Canada. How are you, Kellyanne?
I'm great, Kim. Nice to be back as always with
Yeah.
you and all of loyal our loyal friends that join us every week, which is so wonderful to have people just be here live. It's so much easier. Good morning, ladies. It's so much easier to talk and I love chatting with you, Kim. So it's but it's just really nice to be able to talk when we know there's other women listening.
Totally,
So
totally.
we
We
really
so
do
appreciate
appreciate
you.
that.
Yeah, Jeannie and Angelica, thank you. And everyone that's tuning in, that's going to catch this as a replay. I know many people, I just actually, Kellyanne, I got a notification on my phone that somebody subscribed to our YouTube channel.
Yay!
Yay! But yeah, if you don't know, we do have a YouTube channel where all of these episodes are going on to. This is episode 21, and we're going to talk all about perfectionism today. Something that both Kellyanne and I have a lot of practice at. And you know what? We're joking about it. We're joking about it because it is the way through. But it is something that there's so many people. I know I'm in a much better place with it, but it definitely, like, even before we went live here, I said to Kellyanne, am I starting out the show? I don't know how to start out the show. What do I say? Like, how many lives have I done? But I'm still like, we get caught up in our heads. And there's a lot of reasons why I think that we do find ourselves questioning whether what we're doing is enough, whether that be as a mother, whether that be as an entrepreneur, as a coach, as a friend. The list goes on. And I think ultimately, I want to believe it's because we deeply care. We do care. But underneath that perfectionism, there are some other things going on. One of them is it's the F word. Do you know what the F word is, Kellyanne?
I would say fear.
It is. It is. Those of you that are tuning in live with us, thanks for being here. Let us know. Do you struggle with perfectionism on any level? I see it a lot, like especially in my world, with the clients I work with. We get caught up in this all or nothing. It has to be all done right, or it's not good enough, and I'm not trying hard enough. I see it a lot with when people are trying to improve their health habits on some level. It's like, it's not good enough if I'm not doing it the way, Joe Blow is, or my sister who is, whatever. We get caught up in those, and ultimately it stops us, right? It stops us from being able to, try, and stops us from being able to celebrate ourselves, because if we never feel like what we're doing is good enough, then we can never truly celebrate what it is that we have already achieved, or whatever it is that we have tried, right? What are your thoughts on this, Kellyanne?
Yeah, I think perfectionism really, like, let's define it
Yeah,
first.
yeah.
It's a drive to feel, appear perfect,
Mhm.
right? With no flaws, with no mistakes. And that is exhausting
Mhm.
because nobody is perfect. And I think perfectionism, some people, I actually just did a little bit of research, and what I read was that about 30% of the population self identifies as being a perfectionist. And some of us will actually see it as a positive thing,
Yes.
right? We pride ourselves on being a perfectionist. And, Kim and I, we just talked about this before. There's a difference between wanting to do well and striving to do a great job and being a perfectionist,
Mhm.
because that's striving to be better, to do our best. That is healthy. But when we are critical of ourselves, when we don't allow ourselves to fail, or when we see failure, when we see that achieving the goal is the only thing to be celebrated, and
Mhm.
we don't see any of the steps along the way, that's when it becomes a negative, because we fear the judgment of others. We are critical of ourselves, often critical of others. Um, so it it actually, and I think, can maybe you can relate to this in the work that you do, that perfectionism can often lead to a sense of, if you are a perfectionist, you feel like you're more in control of things.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, exactly, right, because that's what we're needing to hold on to, and it's like, as long as I have every, especially with eating, right? As long as I count everything, or as long as I'm weighing myself every day, or as long as I go to the gym every single day, I'm okay, and we hold on to these things, and ultimately, I mean, I'm not gonna go, I don't think we're gonna go too deep into this, but to me, this is survival. This is a safety. This is a safety within our nervous system, right? Because when I'm not doing all of these things, or as long as I'm doing all of these things, as long as I'm getting praise, as long as I'm doing all the things that my boss tells me to do, as long as I'm making everyone happy, then I'll be okay with me, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It goes deep, right? Like I have had to do a lot of work on this, and I think it's becoming an entrepreneur that has made me be able to be where I am with recovering from perfectionism. Because if I waited, I say this to people all the time, if we wait, if for this is for anybody who is someone who has their own business, or they're trying to do something that really puts them in the public eye on some level, or it makes them get out of their comfort zone, that safety of our comfort zone. If we wait until we think we have it all figured out, until we know exactly what we're supposed to do, how it's supposed to look like, or as good as somebody else is doing it, that's what it is for me. I see what everybody else is doing, and then I think to myself, like, it's never going to be good enough, right? So I'm never going to put myself out in the public eye until it is, potentially not going to be at risk of an opinion. But as we know, there's always going to be opinions in this world. I think that's one of the reasons why we started this podcast, right, Kellyanne?
You're right. And actually, procrastination is one of the symptoms, can be one of the symptoms of being a perfectionist, because, yeah, if you never put it out there, you never have the opportunity to fail. And you're right. We decided to do this, scary as all heck,
Mhm,
but we wanted to push ourselves.
mhm,
And I know for me, you talk about being like, I'm definitely a recovering perfectionist. And when I look back at, why I love, Brene Brown says that perfectionism has its root in shame.
mhm.
Well, I know shame. I
Yeah.
know shame very well. And when I look back at, um, how I never felt good enough, that when I was being praised for me, it was being smart.
Mhm,
I did well in school. So all of the praise that I got from being a good student, from getting the awards, and then as I became an adult, getting, receiving the accomplishments, all of those things, that made me feel enough,
mhm,
because I didn't feel it inside myself. So my worth came from all of those things that I was so good at. And I think that's where a lot of the perfectionism comes from, is that it's our way of hiding that not enoughness. If we can do things that people can see on the outside, we prove to ourselves and we prove to other people that we are worthy, that we are good people.
Ooh, this one's hitting hard, Kellyanne. It's so true. It's so true. Like I think back to where I was in the depths of my struggles, and all of the things that I thought I needed to do, be the shoulds, the ever long lasting of shoulds. And I did it because that is what I created, this sense of enoughness, was from that outside world. right? And that's the thing, like, as long as we feel on some level that, all it takes is for us to get that little praise, or, oh my goodness, you're so amazing, you're so smart. I see this. I've worked with a lot of young children, teenagers, high achieving teenagers that are in all the sports, that are getting all the grades, that are trying to be the perfect children. And I see it. I see it's this fear of not being enough underneath it. So definitely rooted to the shame for sure, and the stories. And it's just so important. I think about it from the standpoint of us as parents, as grandparents. Like, even my daughter, I mean, I know I shared yesterday what her marks are in school, but I also remind her, because I know where she's wired the same way as me. And I remind her that no matter what, as long as she's doing her best, it doesn't matter, what the marks are, right? And I think it's important that we pay attention to that, because if we have this long lasting list of things that we feel we should be, or the things that we don't allow ourselves to do for fear of it not being good enough, it really, really impacts us on so many levels.
You're right. You're right. Like that, I know for me, it was definitely I still, I'm still recovering from this, but I was the kind of person who, unless I could do it really well or perfectly, I just wouldn't even try. And I was afraid to start things. I was scared to show up because unless I could do it perfectly, I didn't want anybody to see. I didn't want anybody to see my mistakes. I didn't want anybody to see my failures. And I think, often the way that perfectionism shows up for us could be, it could be that, like that procrastination, that being afraid to start. And oftentimes it's that imposter syndrome. We think, okay, and hey, I felt that, I always felt this big time. It's like, okay, maybe, I did well at this, but maybe this was a fluke. Maybe, maybe there was a mistake. Maybe I'm not as good as I think I am. I've just had a couple successes, but it's not going to continue. And I think that a lot of us can relate to that. That when you start to learn, and what, especially as an entrepreneur, what you start to learn is that you have to fail your way to success. Anytime you step out of your comfort zone, you are going to fail. And when you can accept that failure as growth and as lessons, that perfectionism has less of a hold on you, I think.
I am going to try and talk, but it's
Oh,
not going well today.
okay.
Listen to my voice right now. Woo! Um, you said something earlier, that when we struggle with perfectionism ourselves, we judge other people.
Mhm,
100%. It's this list
mhm,
of all the things that we feel we have to be,
mhm,
and then we project that onto other people. I think of all of the things that I struggled with, and the comparison and the feelings of not being enough. And a lot of the time I was competing. They didn't know it, but I was competing with people that I don't want to say that I'm diagnosing someone else, but high achievers, the type A personalities, the people that have really, really high standards, and then they think that other people should be that way too.
mhm,
And if they're not, we project that onto other people.
mhm,
And I just think it's really something, we can do that now. And I mean, I did it, and I can say it because I did it.
mhm,
I just, and again, again, these are raw and unscripted conversations, but I'm just thinking out loud right now. the reason why I needed other people to do things the way I thought they should be done was because I cared. Yes, I cared from a wanting to do a good job, but it was deeper than that. It was a fear of judgment. It
Mm.
was a fear of what other people are going to think. And if I had my name on something in some way, or if I was connected to something in some way, I needed everything to go as perfect could be. And if it wasn't that way, I would pass judgment on other people for that.
Wow. That
Yeah.
hit me hard because I think even as mothers,
Mm,
we I know for me, I it was important to me that my family looked perfect.
mm,
That, when you say everybody, the things you had your name on, well, it's kind of like your family, right?
well,
Like you
yeah,
want your husband to be perfect, you want your kids to be perfect because they all have a lot to do with you.
yeah,
They're a reflection of you.
mhm,
And it it create like I had high expectations of myself, which in itself are not a bad thing. We can have
totally.
high expectations of ourselves.
Mhm,
But when we start to have unhealthy high expectations of ourselves, and as you say, Kim, then project them onto other people, that creates suffering for us and suffering for the other people. I know, and it don't want to get emotional, but
oh, it's okay.
this takes me back
Mhm,
to something that I told myself I would never do because it's a stupid little thing, but my mom was a perfectionist.
mhm,
And I still remember being asked to fold the towels. And I didn't fold them right,
mhm,
according to her.
mhm,
And so she took them all apart and refolded them. Um, and that is something that I told myself I would never do with my children, but I find, or with my, people that I love, but I found myself for most of my life doing that.
mhm.
I couldn't give anybody else, I couldn't delegate anything. I had to be in control of everything because only I could do it right.
Mhm,
Nobody else could live up to the expectations. And, we think that our perfectionism isn't hurting anybody else, but it is.
mhm,
It is. It's, just like everything in our lives, I talk about the ripple effect that we have. This too, perfectionism has a huge ripple effect in the people, especially the people closest to us, but often the people that we work with, as you said, Kim,
mhm.
the people, even the strangers that we meet. We have these huge high expectations of everybody, and I became so critical of everybody in my life.
Oh, thank you for your vulnerability. And you know what? That just, we're talking inner child healing. That's a healing moment right there
Mhm,
for your younger self in you,
mhm,
right? And that's what we have to remember is it's those moments when as a child we're just doing what I know how to fold the towels this way. Why is, you see that and it still is hitting home for you, and that's why it brought up the emotions for you, right?
mhm,
And I think it's really, really important that I talk about this a lot. When you talked about the delegation, 100%. I remember when I was really struggling in my career, and I had clubs that were out of town, and I was just told to delegate things. And I was like, well, I can't delegate that because that's not their job, first of all. Why should they be doing something but I also again, it was my name on it.
mhm,
And it's like, at least if I know, and that's why I would stay up till the late hours at night. Responding to emails, like I always was over and above because of what I needed. It's going back to, we've talked about people pleasing here so much as well. Um, there's so much around this. So I think it's an important conversation that we're talking about this and where it all shows up. And as you've said, it's this healthy balance between I want to do well. I care about what I put out. I'm not
Mhm.
just gonna put, but my best is gonna be different, and what matters to me, like, I think about it in terms of, like, people's lawns, how they keep their houses, how they dress their children. Um, I'm gonna share a quick little story. This is, like, one of my, like, most I can laugh about it now, but, oh, it was so shameful and embarrassing. I had, again, as a parent, how you want to be looked at as a family, and I don't like being late for things. I'm way better at it now, actually too much. But when my kids, when I'm juggling all the things as we did as parents, when our kids were in so many sports and activities, and I didn't want my kids showing up late for anything because that's a reflection on me, right?
Mhm, mhm,
Anyways, I was again doing way too much, trying to do all the things, make everyone happy, have the cooked meal, etc. And I pulled out of my driveway. And the way my street is, we have no sidewalks, and I'm second house from the T intersection. And I had my blinders on because I just needed to get the kids to track. And there was a car parked right beside my neighbor's house, right in front of the house. And I took the corner tight to turn right, and I clipped the car because I didn't even see it.
mhm,
And why did I do that? Because I was just like, I can't be late. I can't be late. So I was like, that was this go, 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 go with this list of things that I believed I needed to be. And I'm just a very, very embarrassing moment for me. He was in the car with his grandchild.
mhm,
No one got hurt, but I had to go in my house and, like, you think back and you go, like, how did that happen? But it was because of all of these expectations that I had on myself. Um,
mhm,
I think it's all linked to perfectionism. It's all linked to perfectionism. It's all linked to all of the things that we believe we need to be, the
mhm.
way our children need to be, how they should behave, and it's coming at a cost to us
For
on
sure.
many levels. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think one of the costs also is that our health, we hold it in our bodies, right? We hold that because when we have that perfectionist, and perfectionism is not a character flaw. It's actually a strategy. And you said, can we use it, right?
Mm.
We use it to overcome fear. We use it as a strategy to help us cope. Um, but we hold that tension in our body because we're doing so much, because everything has to be perfect. We are holding on to that so tightly, and that shows up for us physically, right? It shows up for us in exhaustion, in tension, in headaches, in, you know,
Sleep,
sleep,
inability.
sleep, in our digestive systems. Like it 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 shows up in so many places. It really, I know for me, I was always like this,
Mhm.
always, just so tense. Um, and I had lots of those things show up for me. And I think that perfectionism, being concerned that we are not good enough, is really the root of so, so many things for us.
Mm.
Now, I wonder if we can maybe talk about, we've talked about all the negative things.
Yes, yes.
Can we maybe talk about some of the ways that we can be kinder to ourselves, and how do we deal with, I mean, society values perfectionism.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Society, school, our jobs, like everywhere we go, perfectionism is valued.
Mhm.
So how do we take care of ourselves and still show up as women who do a good job and who, do the things that we need to do? Kim,
And
what are
still
some,
enjoy our life.
exactly, what are some of the things that you have used in your life to be able to, to be kinder to yourself?
Oh gosh. Well, I mean, again, to me, everything starts with my self-talk. I mean, self-talk is huge for me. If I hear it going on, like there's something that I've been procrastinating on, And rather than calling myself lazy, that you don't care, I'm allowing myself to get to the root of why I've been procrastinating on it. And
Mhm.
this link to perfectionism. And I allow myself to really sit with those feelings and then remind myself that my good enough today is my good enough today. Right. And that whatever I'm putting out into the world, whatever it is that I'm doing, no matter how I show up in the world, to me, this always goes back to self-love and self-respect and
Mhm.
self and my self-worth, right? If I know who I am as a person, and I know that by me doing things that are outside of my comfort zone, that take me into places that feel scary for me, when I still know that I'm really, really proud of myself for doing that, that helps me immensely.
Mhm.
The other thing I'm going to share a lot when it comes to perfectionism, and I can give a little reference here also to Mel Robbins with her 5 4 3 2 1 strategy, but it's by just doing the damn thing. Like we can stall for so long and dig our heels into the ground and not submit something, because I mean, we could talk about this in so many different angles, but like if I have to submit something and I keep going over it and over it and over it and it's never good enough, eventually you have to just press send, or you have to send it out there, or you have to go live and allow yourself to choke on public, right? Like this is just what we have to do sometimes. To answer your question, though, I can say my self-talk is huge, reminding myself that my today, like I was saying this to a client this morning, when I first started coaching, the way I started coaching 5.5, 6 years ago is very different than my coaching now. It didn't mean that I wasn't a good coach back then,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
I was a good enough coach for where I was at my stage of the career that I was at and the skills I had. Right. So I think we just have to honor ourselves where we are in the process
Mhm.
and know that that our good enough is good enough until we want to strive for a little bit more
I love that.
balance, though. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I think as we grow, as we expand, we start to recognize that a bit more, right? We start to have that awareness of our self talk. We start to challenge that inner critic in our head. We start to challenge that a bit more, and we allow ourselves to we start to recognize that to grow we have to step outside our comfort zone, and we are going to make mistakes there.
Mhm.
We
Mhm.
are going to fail, and that just means we're growing, we're doing something different that we've never done before. And having that self compassion is is really the key. And I think that as you said, Kim, doing the thing. So exposing yourself,
Mhm.
pushing yourself to do things, even if it's something small. Like, you know what? Even if it's you cannot leave dishes in the sink when you go to bed at night, okay? Maybe that's a thing for you. It's not for me, but maybe that's a thing for you. You know what? One night, just push yourself. Say,
Mhm.
I'm not going to do the dishes tonight.
Mhm.
And allow yourself to just experience that lack of perfection and let yourself sit with it. For me, those have been the things that have helped me to move forward. Um, some would say now that I've let too many things go and I'm not a perfection. I don't demand perfection in too many areas.
Yeah.
Um, but letting go of so many of those things that had to be perfect for me has just given me so much freedom and release. And as we said, we still have high expectations of ourselves, but we don't beat ourselves up anymore as
Mhm.
much as we used to.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm speaking for you.
Oh, no, 100%, and to me, it's like a level, right?
Yeah.
Like, and you know what? When you care about what you do, like, there's so many things we're talking about here. I mean, there's a difference between having dust on your table versus putting a proposal together,
Yeah.
right? Like, they're different
Yeah.
conversations, right? But I think ultimately, you know yourself. People know, like, I know when it's going too far, right? I know what it felt like to feel in that energy. Um, but there's such I want to just tie into the fact that when you start to do the things that are outside your comfort zone and you're willing to stretch yourself and to just say, you know what, I'm going for it, it gives you so much courage. And then the next time it's not as scary.
Mhm.
And that's how we grow.
Mhm.
Like that's how we see what's possible for ourselves. And until you start doing it, that's why the only way through is through. Like you have to do it. And you have to be willing, like you have to be willing to put it out into the world and get feedback back and know that it's feedback. It's just feedback, right?
Mhm.
But to me, the piece, like if I had to sum up a word that summarizes this recovery journey of people pleasing, perfectionism, fear of judgment, it's peace.
Mhm.
It's peace. It's peace for myself. It's peace for other people. Because when I what I want for my life isn't necessarily what somebody wants for theirs. And so for me to expect that my expectations of the world and what I want, you know, it's just not fair to do that to other people,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, and you're right. That peace, I think so many of us yearn for peace, um, and it can be elusive, right? It can be something that we just don't know how to find. But
Mhm,
as you say, Kim, and you said it very well, letting go of some of the things, the expectations that we have, the expectations we feel are placed on us that are often stories we tell ourselves,
mhm,
that aren't based in truth. Letting go of those things truly does give you
mm.
a peace that you can't find anywhere else.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's I really love this conversation, because
Mhm.
it's just we need to hear this in whatever way, like whatever it is that I want to just tie it back to health for a brief moment. When people are trying to get healthier, it's like when we're trying to be all or nothing or try to compete with all the other things that everybody else is doing, like we'll never feel it's good enough. And that's why we have to start, no matter what it is we're talking about, just start with one thing and be willing to allow yourself to grow through that
Mhm.
and learn through that. That's the opportunities in life for us. We're kind of looking at perfectionism in two different ways. We're looking at it from a place of um, not being able to stretch ourselves and grow out of our comfort zone, or also just that internal strain that we carry within ourselves
Mhm.
from trying to be all the things that we think we need to be.
Mhm.
Um,
Exactly.
and especially in our world, like as mothers, like I know we obviously attract a lot of women into this space, and we work with a lot of women. I just think our world is very different now. The way we were parented, the way our mothers mothered, the way our grandmothers mothered, it's a different world to what we're living now. We
Mhm.
have careers. Our children are in lots of sports. Everything is the standard of living, the expectations that our society has put to keep up with the Joneses. It just keeps raising, right? And I think we need to go back to, I just want to just touch on being a mother for a moment. Those who have children in some capacity is just to remember those core needs that our children need, love, connection, safety,
Mhm.
a roof. Like, because, I just think of all the times where it's like you stay up so late at night trying to do all the things you think you're supposed to do as a parent. And then on top of it, all the other things for yourself as a woman and as a wife. And it's just exhausting.
It is. It is. And as we've said so many times, when you take care of you, you
Mhm.
are better for everybody else.
100%.
Right? So focus on taking care of you, and that will have huge ripple effects. Be kind to yourself, and
Mhm.
that will ripple out into your world.
This time went fast today. I just looked down at the clock.
I know, I know. So thank you for all who were here. I couldn't keep up with
I know.
all of the
We try
comments.
to read. We try to read when the other person's talking, but it's hard.
But we truly appreciate everything that you have shared and engaging in the conversation. That's what this Raw Unscripted was meant to be. It was meant to be a place where you could engage, where Kim and I could be vulnerable and share stories and cry and do all the things. So thank you for being a part of it with us.
Mhm.
Um,
And I'm going to challenge. I'm going to, and maybe challenge isn't the right word, but just in a little request is that we all, including Kellyanne and I, let's all look at our lives and see where we're expecting more from ourselves than we need to, or where we can tone that down a little bit, or maybe with someone else. Maybe there's someone else in our life that we have been just asking too much of. And because then you know what that does is it starts to eat away at a person's self-esteem when they're never doing it good enough. So let's do that for ourselves and for the people that are in our lives, and see if we can just give a little bit more freedom and peace and joy back into our lives, and just go out and do the damn thing. Okay? Go out and do the damn thing. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, right? Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
We see some new faces in here today. So thank you for those of you who've tuned in and enjoyed our conversation. Kellyanne and I meet every Tuesday on here. We have 21 episodes, including today. So they are all on our YouTube channel, Raw Unscripted. And please check in. We talk about all things that we feel are really important, definitely issues that women struggle with. And I'll just take an opportunity really quickly, and then you two as well can do so. But we're both coaches. I support women with their relationships with food and body image, self-worth and confidence. Trained in eating psychology and mind-body nutrition. I'm also trained in NLP and hypnotherapy and EFT. And I have 30 years in the fitness industry also. I'm doing all of this from a supportive space so that we can all enjoy lives more and really, become that next version of ourselves. So that's a little bit about me. I work one-on-one and in group spaces as well.
And I am a midlife mindset and manifestation coach working with women who are looking to stop settling, looking to reprogram some of those beliefs that are keeping you stuck. And especially in midlife where we have so many challenges. Um, and we're trying to find our way at this point in our lives. So I do work one on one. I also work in group spaces, and I put out, both Kim and I put out a lot of free content. So follow us on social media. We love to connect with women.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you for carrying the conversation on when I was having a little bit of a choking spell. Thank you for your vulnerability today. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you too. Have an amazing day, everybody.
Bye-bye, everyone.